The motion sensor app on my phone buzzed with an alert at 3:12 a.m., and the notification said something that made my heart stop beating for 3 full seconds. Movement detected in bedroom. Bodies present. 2. I was alone in my apartment. I had been alone for months since my girlfriend moved out, and I had no pets and no roommates and no explanation for why my smart home system was insisting that 2 living bodies were currently occupying the room where I slept. I opened the app and looked at the sensor data and felt my blood turn to ice water because the system was not malfunctioning. The infrared readings showed 2 distinct heat signatures, 2 separate masses of warmth in a room that should have contained only me. One signature was on my bed where I was lying frozen with terror. The other signature was inside my closet. I stared at the closet door from across the dark room and watched it slowly and possibly silently begin to open. There was no wind. There were no drafts. The door had been fully closed when I went to bed, and now it was moving on its own, swinging outward inch by inch with a patience that felt deliberate, that felt like something inside was pushing it open while taking its time, while savoring the moment, while making absolutely sure I was watching. The motion sensor buzzed again. Bodies present. 2. Heat signature in closet. 98.7 degrees. The exact temperature of a living human body. I wanted to run, but my body would not cooperate. I wanted to scream, but my throat had closed around any sound before it could escape. I could only lie there and watch the closet door continue to open, revealing darkness inside that seemed thicker than the darkness of my bedroom, darkness that felt alive and hungry and aware of exactly what it was doing. When the door had swung open far enough to create a gap of about 2 feet, it stopped. The motion sensor app updated again. Heat signature has moved. Current location. Closet doorway. Distance from bed. 8 feet. Something was standing in my closet doorway. Something with the body temperature of a living person was standing 8 feet from my bed in the darkness of my apartment at 3:12 a.m. I could not see it. The darkness was too complete, and my eyes had not adjusted. And maybe that was a mercy, because maybe seeing it would have been worse than the imagining. But I could feel it. I could feel the weight of attention, the pressure of being watched by something that had been hiding in my closet, waiting for this moment, waiting for me to be awake enough to know it was there, but not awake enough to fight back. The sensor buzzed again. Heat signature moving. Distance from bed. 6 feet. It was getting closer. It was crossing the space between my closet and my bed with movements that made no sound on the hardwood floor. Movements that did not register as footsteps or shuffling or any recognizable pattern of locomotion. It was simply getting closer, the distance decreasing with each notification, and I still could not see anything in the darkness where a shape should have been visible. I lunged for the lamp on my knitstand and slammed my hand against the switch, and light flooded the room with a brightness that made me squint. I looked at the space between my closet and my bed. There was nothing there. The floor was empty. The air was still. The closet doorway gaped open, but nothing stood within it. I checked my phone, and the motion sensor app was still running, but something had changed. Bodies present. 1. The second heat signature had vanished the instant I turned on the light. I did not sleep for the rest of that night. I sat in my bed with every light in the apartment blazing and my phone clutched in my hand, and my eyes fixed on that open closet door that I was too afraid to approach and close. I watched the motion sensor data refresh every 30 seconds, and it kept reporting the same thing. Bodies present. 1. I was alone again. Whatever had been in my closet had retreated or disappeared or become invisible to the infrared sensors that had detected it so clearly just moments before. I called a technician the next morning and had them check the motion sensor system for malfunctions. They ran diagnostics and tested every component and found nothing wrong. The system was working exactly as designed. The infrared sensors were properly calibrated. The heat signature detection was accurate to within 1/10 of a degree. When I told them what had happened the night before, what the sensor had reported, they looked at me like I was losing my mind and suggested that maybe a raccoon had gotten into the apartment through the ventilation system. I asked them if raccoons had body temperatures of exactly 98.7 degrees. They did not have an answer for that. I installed cameras the next day. One pointed at my bed and one pointed at my closet. I bought a new lock for the closet door and secured it every night before going to sleep. I left lights on throughout the apartment and tried to convince myself that what had happened was a one-time glitch, an anomaly that would not repeat itself, a malfunction that the technicians had somehow missed despite their thorough testing. I almost believed it. I almost convinced myself that I could go back to normal. The motion sensor buzzed at 3:12 a.m. exactly 1 week later. Bodies present. 2. Heat signature detected in closet. The closet door was locked. I had checked it 3 times before going to bed. But when I looked at the camera feed on my phone, the door was standing wide open, and the lock was hanging loose on the frame as if something had pushed through it from the inside. The camera pointed at the closet was experiencing interference, the image breaking up into static and distortion that made it impossible to see what was in the doorway. But the camera pointed at my bed was working perfectly, and what it showed made me want to scream. There was a shape standing at the foot of my bed. The camera showed it clearly, a dark figure that was taller than any person should be, with proportions that were wrong in ways I could not immediately identify. Its arms hung past its knees. Its head was tilted at an angle that suggested a broken neck. Its body was thin, impossibly thin, like something that had been stretched on a rack until the bones separated and the skin became translucent. And it was looking at me. The camera showed it looking at my sleeping body on the bed with a focus that felt predatory. I was watching this on my phone. I was seeing it on the camera feed in real time. But when I looked up from the screen and stared at the foot of my bed, there was nothing there. The space where the figure stood on camera was empty to my eyes. I could not see it directly. I could only see it through the lens of my camera, through the mediation of technology that somehow captured what my human vision could not perceive. I held up my phone and looked at the screen and watched the figure turn its head toward the camera, toward me, and smile with a mouth that stretched too wide across a face that had too few features. The motion sensor updated, heat signature moving, distance decreasing. I watched on the camera as the figure walked around my bed, its 2 long legs taking steps that covered more ground than they should have, its body swaying with each movement, like something that had not quite mastered the mechanics of walking. I tracked its progress on the screen while looking at the empty air beside my bed where nothing was visible, where the figure should have been but was not, where reality refused to show me what the camera insisted was there. It stopped beside my pillow. On the camera I could see it leaning down toward my face, its stretched smile inches from my skin, its eyeless sockets pointed at my eyes. In person I saw nothing, felt nothing except a coldness that settled over me like a blanket made of ice, a pressure on my chest that made breathing difficult, a wrongness that permeated the air and made my instincts scream that I needed to run. But I could not run because running would mean passing through the space where the figure stood, passing through a body I could not see, but that the camera proved was real. I turned on the lights, and the camera feed went to static for 3 seconds. When the image stabilized, the figure was gone. The motion sensor updated. Bodies present. 1. I was alone again, alone in a room that had contained something watching me sleep, something that could only be seen through cameras, something that came from my closet at 3:12 a.m. every night and stood beside my bed doing things I could not perceive directly. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom after that. I moved a mattress into the living room and set up cameras in every corner and checked the motion sensor data compulsively throughout the night. The readings stayed normal for 3 days. Bodies present. 1. Just me, alone in my apartment, finally safe from whatever had been visiting me in the dark. I started to relax. I started to believe that maybe changing rooms had solved the problem, that maybe the thing was tied to my bedroom closet and could not follow me to other parts of the apartment. The motion sensor alert came on the 4th night at 3:12 a.m., and this time it was different. Bodies present. 7. 7 heat signatures detected throughout my apartment. 6 of them clustered around my mattress in the living room, one of them standing in the corner, watching the others. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera feeds with hands that shook so badly I almost dropped the device. What I saw on those feeds has haunted every moment of my life since. The 7th figure raised its hand and pointed at one of the others, and that one stepped forward, approaching my sleeping body on a mattress. I watched it lean down toward my face the way the original figure had done in my bedroom. I watched its mouth open wider than any mouth should open, the smile becoming a hole, becoming an absence that seemed to lead somewhere other than a throat. I watched it lower that impossible mouth toward my sleeping face, and I screamed. My scream woke me up. I had been asleep. I had been dreaming that I was watching the cameras, but I had actually been unconscious on my mattress, while the figures surrounded me and did whatever they had been planning to do. I grabbed my phone and checked the motion sensor data and saw that it now read bodies present. 1. They were gone. They had retreated the moment I woke up, the moment I became conscious enough to fight back or run or do anything other than lie there helpless and vulnerable. But something had changed. I could feel it in my body before I understood it with my mind. There was a weight inside me that had not been there before, a presence that felt like being watched from inside my own head. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror and saw my own face looking back at me, but the expression was wrong. The smile was too wide. The eyes were too empty. For just a moment, for a fraction of a second, I saw something else looking out from behind my features, something that had been outside and was now inside, something that had used my sleeping body as a door. I started recording video diaries because I needed to document what was happening to me. I watched those videos back and saw things I did not remember doing. I saw myself standing in the corner of my apartment at 3:12 a.m., swaying with that same rhythmic motion the figures had displayed. I saw myself walking to the closet in my bedroom and opening the door and standing in the doorway for hours without moving. I saw myself smiling into the camera with a smile that stretched too wide and eyes that had no recognition in them, no humanity, no sign of the person I used to be. The motion sensors started giving strange readings during the day. Bodies present. 2. It would register 2 heat signatures even when I was alone, even when I was the only living thing in the apartment. I checked the cameras and saw myself sitting on the couch, just sitting there normally. But behind me, in every frame, there was a shadow that did not match my body, a shape that moved independently of my movements, a second presence that was attached to me now, that followed me wherever I went. I tried to leave the apartment and get help, but something stopped me every time. My hand would reach for the door and then pause, frozen by a resistance that came from inside my own mind. My legs would carry me toward the exit, and then turn around and walk back to the living room. I was no longer fully in control of my body. The thing that had entered me during that night, when I was asleep, was learning how to drive my flesh, practicing the mechanics of possession while I watched helplessly from somewhere behind my own eyes. The last video I recorded before I lost the ability to use my phone shows me standing in front of the camera, talking directly to whoever would eventually find the footage. My voice sounds normal for the first few minutes. I explain what has been happening. I describe the motion sensor data. I talk about the figures in the closet and the cameras that could see what my eyes could not. Then my voice changes. It becomes wet and wrong, like someone talking through a mouthful of something thick. The words are no longer mine. It says that I was chosen because I installed the sensors, because I set up the cameras, because I gave it a way to be seen when it had spent so long being invisible. It says that seeing is a door and cameras are windows, and I built the architecture of my own haunting when I decided I needed to monitor my bedroom while I slept. It says there are more of them now, more people with smart homes and motion sensors and cameras that capture things human eyes refuse to perceive. It says they are using those systems to find new hosts, to locate the sleeping bodies of people who have made themselves visible through technology. It says you might be next. It says to check your motion sensors tonight. It says to look at your camera feeds and count the bodies in your home. It says if the number is higher than it should be, it is already too late. The video ends with my face pressed close to the camera, my smile stretched impossibly wide, my eyes rolled back to show only whites. The motion sensor data at the bottom of the screen reads bodies present. 8. There are 7 more of them now, 7 more figures that have joined the one inside me, 7 more entities that are learning to wear my body like a suit. I am typing this from somewhere inside myself where I still have access to my fingers for a few more hours. The thing that controls me now is sleeping, resting after the effort of making my body do things bodies should not do. When it wakes up, I will lose this last piece of myself and become just a passenger in my own flesh, watching from behind eyes that no longer belong to me. Check your motion sensors. Check your cameras. Count the bodies in your home. If the number is wrong, if there is 1 more heat signature than there should be, do not go to sleep. Do not close your eyes. Do not give them the vulnerability they need to enter. They are watching through your cameras right now. They are waiting for you to fall asleep. They are counting down the minutes until 3:12 a.m. when the closet doors begin to open, and the motion sensors start reporting bodies present that should not exist. My closet door is opening again. I can hear it from inside myself. Hear the creak of hinges and the whisper of movement. The thing inside me is waking up. I am losing control of my hands. Bodies present. 9. They are multiplying. They are coming for you next. Check your sensors. Count the bodies. And whatever you do, Do not install cameras in your bedroom. Some things do not want to be seen. Some things become more real when you build the technology to perceive them. Some things are waiting in the darkness of every closet in every home that has sensors and cameras and devices that make the invisible visible. Bodies present. 10. They know you are reading this. They can see you through your screen. They are learning your heat signature right now.